Doug Armstrong is here. Go ahead.
Doug, as you evaluate this season, how much do you factor in the injuries and the COVID situations that you guys had at various times?
Certainly, that is going to play into my overall assessment of the year. I'm trying to look at it in short snippets and then a longer haul. Obviously, I need to find out why, since COVID hit a little over a year ago, that we went to the bubble and weren't able to muster the same effect that we had pre-COVID. And I think this year was a sort of continuation of that. And we have to get back to being the strength of this organization is the team, and we have to get back to being a better team.
Do you think the Stanley Cup window, that you have the pieces to still, is it still open? Do you still consider yourself a cup contender?
Well, I think when we brought in those players a couple of years ago, we said we thought we had potentially a 5-year window. That's year 3 of it, so I do think it's open. So it's going to be difficult. Obviously, the way the league works, Jimmy, and I think we all know it. Over the last decade, this group has averaged a little over 103 points a season, which is commendable. And in that last decade, Colorado's had 4 top 4 picks and I think 6 top 10 picks. So they're primed and they're going to be good for a while. I think you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs. You look at their team right today with the number of top 5 picks. They're going to be good for a while. So the way that we have to be good is, as I said, team and pack mentality, and we'll have to assess how we can get better under that format. We don't have an answer internally for McKinnon or McDavid or Crosby or Ovechkin. These guys are our number 1 overall picks or top picks, and the way that we have to build our team and the way we have to continue to do it is by believing in each other, supporting each other, and understanding that individually we can't get it done. We have to do it as a group.
Army, every year brings change. Every offseason does. How much change are you anticipating this offseason? And obviously, a guy like Jaden Schwartz is on the forefront of a lot of people's minds when it comes to free agency. Do you see him coming back?
Well, I think this will be an active year, not only potentially here in St. Louis, but around the league. Anytime you have expansion, you have teams trying to do what's best for them, whether it's not exposing players to Seattle, making trades in which they feel they're in a better spot, or just giving Seattle a list of players, and then a flat cap for the foreseeable future. So I think it's going to be an interesting summer. Will there be a lot of change? Time is going to tell. I think Schwartz is a player that we talked to before the season, and he was very adamant that he was comfortable waiting, and I understood that too. He was going through a lot of things personally, and now we have until the end of July to figure out if this relationship is going to continue.
Craig was just talking about the defense, and he included the forwards just wasn't as good as it's been in the past. Can you look at that situation and say if you have a healthy Parayko for 56, maybe it's different? Just how do you assess the D this year?
Well, I think if Colton was 100% healthy, and Gunnarsson played the whole year, and if Dunn didn't get hurt, and we had growth in certain players, but you really have to do, and I'm not trying to be evasive, you have to deal with reality. This is how the season went. Players got hurt, and I would say overall our defense was not to the standard that we've had in the past, and we'll have to either address that thinking that health alone will fix that, or maturity of younger players will fix that, or a combination of new players coming in will help fix that. But I certainly understand the question, JR, but it's hard to formulate an idea of what might have been if certain things had have happened.
Now that Torrey Krug has a season under his belt with St. Louis, can you describe how he fit in, how he fits in with the Blues? And obviously the power play was really good during the regular season.
Well, the power play got good at the end. It wasn't very good for half the year. So,
Sure.
So that's Torrey's game. And I think one of the things when to fill off what JR was talking about, when you have injuries, players get extended to areas that they haven't done in the past. And I think Torrey was plus 10 or 11 this year, maybe as high as plus minus. So I think he did a lot of good things defending wise that he hadn't had to do before. And I think the extended ice time probably hurt his 5-on-5 player's power play. But with that being said, I think coming into a new organization, in the format that he had to come in, his wife and family not really being able to connect with the other people in the community on the team. It was a trying year for people coming in, and that's not only for Torrey, that's for everyone that switched teams. But I think that he has a good future here based on his past his history.
And then also, when you follow up on that, is you look at him primed for a good second year with St. Louis. We saw Falk have an okay year the first year, and you could argue had a really good year the second year. Can you describe Falk's growth in your sweater, if you will?
Yeah, I will. I think that, when in the 3 or 4 days that I've had, I look back, and if I start with myself and the coaches and the players, just looking at that group, there's 3 people that I think if they have the same season they had this year, next year, we're going to be happy, and that's Falk, that's Perron, and that's O'Reilly. I think the rest of us, starting with myself and the coaches and the rest of the players, we have to find a different level. We have to, some of us have to get a lot better, and some of us have to get 1 or 2% better. But it's amazing if everyone gets a little bit better, what that effect will have on the entire group. But just with Falk, I think Falk came in. He's a proud player. He has a good pedigree of being a top player. I think that he commanded the respect of his teammates with his play, and this is the player that we thought we had traded for, and this is the player we expect moving forward.
Greg, what did you think of Tarasenko's season, and is it possible that do you think he can approach after all the shoulder surgeries, his past level of play?
Yeah, I think that the season when he got back in, it was going to be a work in progress for the year. Vladdy's a tremendous competitor. He worked extremely hard off the ice to get ready, but it's still extended amount of time off, and we saw flashes of a 25-year-old Vladdy Tarasenko, and I know he's going to put the work in, but like any player at his age, or you always have to evolve, and your game has to change to stay current, and not just Vladdy, but a lot of guys are going to have to evolve their game to today's NHL. But I respect Vladdy. I know he works hard, and he's a good human being and a good person. I know he wants the best, and part of it going over to the World Championship shows his love and passion for hockey. He wants to play.
Why do you think it took Mike Hoffman so long to settle in on a role here? And did that frustrate you at times? And what do you see for his future? Could you see him having a future here in St. Louis?
I could. I certainly want to sit and take some time and talk to our entire staff. Like Mike he's a goal scorer, and I think he was certainly in the top portion of our team in points. When we needed goals, when our season was on the brink, I thought he stepped up and played. It's that communication and bonding that he had that takes time with coaches and teammates, and sometimes you think you say, okay, you envision this player working with that guy, and it doesn't work out that way. What I was really impressed with Mike, though, was that he hung in there, he battled, he worked, he waited for his opportunity, and then he produced it. What we asked him to do, he produced.
As far as Tyler Bozak, are you interested in bringing him back at the right price?
Yeah, I think Bosey's a good pro. I haven't got into the minutia yet on who's coming back, who's not coming back. I'm going to work with my management staff to get their assessment of our group as a whole. Then we'll do individual players. I'll get some input from the coaches on their thought on the players, and then we'll make a plan. But Bosey's a good pro, and I've enjoyed him for 3 years, and if it works out, that would be great.
Going back to Parayko for a second, have you gotten past the point, because he looked so good down the stretch, have you gotten past the point of the potential of surgery? Is it now just a matter of rest and rehab?
Yeah, I'm certainly going to leave that to Colton and the doctors to find out what's best, but I know he was able to come back and play, and we had to rest him. I don't know, rest is the wrong term. We had to give him the ability to get strong, as regardless of how we were playing on the ice, and I think you just see he's such a dominant player with his skating, his size. The offense wasn't there. That I think a lot of that is related to maybe his injury, and so I'm hoping there's no surgery involved for him. Again, once the season's over, and I think you let your body settle down, it'll tell you what it needs. And but right now, I think that he's just going to be able to continue the rehab and get back to work.
Is Colton's ceiling what we saw during the Stanley Cup playoffs in 2019? Can you describe just how good he can be when he's on? Colton Parayko.
Yeah, I think he's a top defender. I think we saw it in the World Cup at 16 with he was on the Young Guns team, and the offense hasn't been there to maybe what we envisioned earlier, and but he's still a great 200-foot player, and to score in this league, you got to play in the power play, and he doesn't play in the power play, so not many top point producing players get that just 5-on-5. So his job is a 200-foot player that's asked to play two-way and take a strong defending role, and I think he's one of the best in the game doing that.
Army, you've had a lot of years where you've gone in saying we need to get a top six forward. When you look at your group, it would appear that where you need help is really the bottom six this year, based on the performance of your third and fourth lines. Is that fair to think that you need more tweaks on the bottom six than the top?
Well, I think Sundqvist is a big loss in that group. There hasn't really been a lot of turnover, quite honestly, there, except for Steiner. So I think we just need to get better all around, quite honestly, and we need players that have played better in the past to get back to that level. It's not like we're asking 36 and 37-year-old guys to reinvent and find the fountain of youth. We're asking guys between 27 and 31 to get to the level that we know they can play at. But and that would include that group you're talking about. If we can add a different player into that mix, maybe it makes a difference. But we've seen a lot of those guys do that and have success. And I think we're going to have internal growth. A player like Kostin, I'm high on him myself. I'm a big fan. I watched all his games in the KHL playoffs. Neighbors had a good year. It's a difficult league for a 19-year-old. Tarasenko played good. So there has to be competition inside to push these guys. And as I said, when I sit down and do the end-of-year assessment with our management staff and then our coaching staff, we'll see if we have those answers inside or we need to go outside.
Craig, I don't think you can underplay losing Perron right at the start of the playoffs. Is it puzzling to you that you had 3 vaccinated guys that said they were vaccinated turn up positive? I mean, the odds of that have to be pretty low.
New York Yankee-ish. Yeah. It's not something that quite honestly, I thought was going to happen. I thought that, like everybody else, you follow the news and you see the vaccinated people and society's opening up and masks aren't necessary and people are going to restaurants, and then we got hit with it. And I think it's the psychological of losing a player like Perron. And then there's also that psychological factor of, well, how and why did Walker and Wallman get it as vaccinated people, and then so it plays with your mind a little bit. I think it played with our mind a little bit when Vladdy and Benner had the tests in Colorado. But it is what it is. I guess if I wanted to sit here and find excuses why we didn't perform to our level, we could. But nobody really cares. You are what you are. You are what your record says you are, and we were 0-4.
Yeah, the Canadians didn't start till May the 20th. Perron said something interesting. He was hoping that maybe if they could even have pushed it back 3 or 4 days, the Blues start, and maybe he wouldn't be ready for the start of the season, but maybe he would have got in a couple games. Was that possible? I mean, wouldn't the league try to give you guys the best chance to field as close to your best team as possible?
No. They're, and again, I didn't expect them to. They have a business to run. They want this to end as on schedule. And we were told that if you get a COVID case and it's not something that's, running through your whole organization. But I think the reality is that you just have to push and deal with it. I never expected them to push the season back or the playoffs back. So no, I wasn't surprised, or did I expect it?
Doug, is there going to be a different challenge for you this summer with trying to add from the outside, dealing with the flat cap, and knowing now you have to deal with the expansion draft this year?
There's going to be a different challenge, but it's going to be a challenge we're all going to deal with. It's talking, I think, to Mr. Stillman and Chris Zimmerman on when they think the revenues might catch up to the people they're talking to, how long the cap's going to be flat. Are players going to want to go short and then get on the gravy train when it starts to grow, or are they going to want to maximize now and just understand that they might get left behind if the cap grows or when the cap grows? So it's going to be a balancing act with expansion, with the flat cap. So yeah, but I think every year has its challenges, and you just sort of, they deal you the cards, you pick them up, and you start to play.
Greg, are there any
What's your thoughts
off-season
about-
injuries planned? Any off-season surgeries planned, Doug?
Not that I've talked to the trainers about. Not that I'm aware of as of yet. Not saying that won't happen, but nothing I'm aware of.
All right, and besides Tarasenko, is there anyone?
Mikula,
Sorry, guys, you're bouncing off each other.
Go ahead, Andy.
did Wallman and Mikula, did they show you enough to have you pencil them into your top six heading into next season? Like, what are your thoughts on their development and growth they showed?
I'm not sure top six, but I think they're going to be in our top 7 or 8 that are going to compete for that job. Again, expansion is going to play into this on, who we lose. We're going to lose somebody, so that's a fact. So I thought they played well. I really like Mikola's competitiveness. I thought in the game when we lost Bortuzzo and Falk, he showed his willingness to be a gamer, jump in on the play, try and make some things happen offensively. Wallman's got great feet. I really felt for him because he was a guy that, with Colorado's speed, I think could have had a positive effect for us. So they both had good years, growing years, and we gotta continue to expand their game over the summer and get them ready for camp.
You touched on Costin just a little bit ago. Craig said, he didn't play in the playoffs. He went with the guys that he thought could get the job done. Were you able to have some sort of talk with Costin and maybe just let him know he's a part of the plans and keep his head up, anything like that?
I haven't talked to him since the season ended, but I will. He's a big horse of a player that's a second-year pro now, by birth age or whatever. Going into the last year of his entry-level deal, and he's got size, he's got power. I saw him make a couple of plays in the game that he played. Nice. He had a good scoring chance. I think his first shift, he made a nice pass on a play and a goal. So there's some positive things there that we're going to have to push along, and you have to have young players to have success in this league, and I'm excited about his play.
Greg, do you think you need to be better in that front on both ends of the ice?
Yeah, I do. I think that we weren't maybe as you either have to be physically competitive or you have to tie up sticks defensively. And I thought what we did this year, we took up space, but didn't take up sticks. And you saw that in through that whole Colorado series, a number of deflections. So Van Ryan and the defensemen have to come up with a plan to either front those and block those more or tie up sticks, because those are impossible saves for the goalie once you do neither.
And how about the other end of the ice?
Yeah, I think you have to go to that area to score goals in the NHL. There's no question. Hoffman, Tarasenko, there's few players that can score from distance. You have to go into the paint to score, and I think one of the areas where we need to improve is our desire to go in there and not be half committed. we didn't make it very. I thought Colorado made it a lot more difficult on Bennington to see pucks than we made it on the Avalanche goaltenders, and that's an area that we're going to have to improve.
Doug, I apologize. I think I called you Craig there, but
That's
I'm
all
losing
right.
my mind.
That's
But
all right.
Do you think that they? It sounds like from what you're saying, you guys just maybe need a little bit of a retool. Not a rebuild. Is that a correct interpretation?
Well, you mean a rebuild? Like I guess define rebuild. Define rebuild and trade everybody and pick in the top 4 or 5 for 5 or 6 years. I don't think anyone has the appetite for that today. But then I just need to sit down with the ownership group, Mr. Stillman, talk about the window that I believe we created 3 years ago, give him my opinion on why it's still open, and then obviously he loves hockey. He's got passion for the game. He understands the game, and we can digest and make a game plan. But when you talk rebuild, that's a long process that we're lucky that we have a great fan base here in St. Louis that they understand it. But it can be difficult doing, as I went back to like the Colorado method of having 4 top 4 picks. That's a lot of 60 to 75 point seasons, 80 point seasons. That it's a process that when you sit here on a May day and say we're going to start a rebuild, it sounds like it's not that bad, but when you're in year 3 of it, and your team's had 65, 70 points, that's a rebuild, and that's what I have to talk to ownership about. If their desire is to go that way, then we'll go that way. My feeling right now is it's not necessary to take that type of draconian step.
Doug, how big
Like,
of
I
a
guess we know
challenge?
by now. Yeah, I guess we know by now. Is anybody else going to the Worlds?
Not that I'm aware of. Some of these
Anyone
some of these countries they bypass the team and go right to the player. So I haven't been told of anybody else leaving.
Were you okay with Tarasenko going?
Yeah, I was. I was excited because he wanted to play. The passion is still there. The desire to continue after not playing a lot of hockey, and so obviously you're a little bit nervous because he hasn't played a lot, and it's a long trip over there and other things. But I fall back onto it that he loves the game. He wants to get and continue to compete, and he's going to get that opportunity.
And should the groin be a concern at all? He just said a couple days ago he needed it to heal.
You'd have to, again, I'm not trying to, the player signed off that he was 100% healthy and ready to go play, and so I take his word for it.
Okay, thanks.
This is our first time talking to you after that situation in Colorado where Binnington and Tarasenko tested positive and missed the morning skate before a playoff game. Can you just describe what that was like for you and the staff, and just how crazy it was and how that affected the flow of everything?
Well, I was getting those updates about 4:30 to 5 every morning on the previous day's COVID tests, and so I got that one, and I actually thought they were both going to be positive just based on we had 3 other guys. So like the first 3 I thought were going to be negative because no one was getting COVID, and then these 2 I thought were going to be positive because that just seemed to be the way our team was going at that point. And then I talked to Bill Daly, and he said that there could be a tainted lab issue. There was obviously Vegas, I think, had a number of people in management and players, and then the NBA had people too. So that gave us a little glimmer of hope. I talked to the players. We ran a test. We took it right to a lab there in Denver, and they were cleared by 1 o'clock. So it was a hectic 5 or 6 hours. I felt bad for the players because no one ever wants to wake up and then turn your phone on and say it's the GM or the trainer, give me a call ASAP. And then their minds start working on, okay, how did I get this? What's going on? And then you try and calm them down, or not calm them down, but you try and tell them that there could be another false positive, and you just work through it. But it was a hectic, 6 hours.
Doug, what's been your biggest challenge building this roster the way it is when you talked about teams like Colorado having so many top-end picks and some of those teams? What's been your biggest challenge to build this roster the way it is with lower-end first-round picks, some lower, draft choices, second, third, fourth rounds, and building through free agency?
Well, you have to rely on your character of your team. That's how we stayed competitive. That's how we're going to stay competitive. Is bringing in the right people that are willing to sacrifice for the guy beside them. Just the little nuances of the game, putting people in good position when you leave the ice, when they come on the ice. Being a good teammate, not, even though you might not get the ice that you want, is supporting the guy that gets it. And we have to be way better at home too. Our home record, it was nowhere near good enough. Nowhere near good enough. So, the special teams have to improve. The power play did at the end. The penalty kill stayed consistently near the bottom. I think if you go through the first round, if you add our power play and penalty kill, that might be the weakest in the league. So we have to improve the special teams, and to do that and our 5-on-5 plan. To me, it all just comes down to commitment to each other and understanding of how we're built and who we are, and that if we don't do it, that we're gonna have a hard time playing against teams that are getting top end talent year after year.
Army, you had a couple comments in Pierre LeBrun's story. I know you said you didn't want to say much more, but could you just touch on that, something you're passionate about that you'd like to pick up, that conversation about player safety when the season's over? Yeah,
I'm looking forward to talking to the commissioner at some point, or Bill Daly, or both. George Parayko, he's got the hardest job in hockey, and going through all this, I said there's not enough money in hockey to have me do that job. It's an awful job, quite honestly. But I think as a league, from the players to the owners to the coaches to the managers, we can support George and give him more insight and help him do his job. As I said, it's always going to be a job that people second guess. But I think that as a group, we can all help him out, because that's the one thing we all agree on is player safety. Nobody wants to see anyone get hurt. Nobody wants to see anyone miss a game. And as a league, I think we can help George and his group define areas where maybe it's not as gray, it's more black and white. And so it's more of a support George Parayko and player safety than criticize them. That wasn't the case. That wasn't what I meant to do. It was more that I think that group could use assistance from everyone in hockey, because nobody wants to hear, like, as a fan, you don't want to wake up the next day and talk about player safety. And they don't want that. I know George. He doesn't want to talk about this either. So we have to give him the tools and the vehicles to make this and have everyone play maybe in a brand that's not going to have player safety. You have to have an input.
Doug, did you guys get to the 85% mark on vaccinations?
I think so, yeah.
Doug, how do you think Ryan O'Reilly did as a captain, and what do you look for?
I thought he did a good job. Again, it was difficult for him and for me, quite honestly, because you're traveling, but I wasn't allowed to get the leadership group together to take them out for dinner, to do things that I've done in the past with that group. To Craig and I, or any coach and I, would take those guys out maybe once every month, once every couple of months, and everything was just it was awkward. I think he did a good job. I'm excited for his leadership style and leadership skills, and I know he takes a lot of pride in it. I know he's going to work very hard this summer to make sure that we come back as a 100% committed team. And wasn't the easiest task coming in under this environment, and I thought he did a good job.
Are you anticipating that next season will be quote unquote normal in terms of length of schedule and hopefully a post-COVID world?
God, I hope so. I mean, this is getting old for everybody right now. Just even watching the Canadian division in the playoffs and knowing what the Bell Center would sound like, or knowing what Gardens, the old Toronto Gardens, one Air Canada Center, whatever name they're using now, but the just not having fans, it's different. And when you see 9,000, 6,000, 12,000, the energy that it brings, you forget what 18 and 20 looks like. And I'm hoping, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I hope everybody gets vaccinated. I think it's a smart thing to do. I think it makes our society better. I think we can move on quicker. And once we do that, we're going to get back to the things that were normal. This is abnormal, and I hope it always stays abnormal. I want to get back to normal.
Army, how do you go about going out and finding the best players or players that can accent your roster and matching that with the coaching style? And do you feel like you together?
You're breaking up a little bit, but I think, yeah, Craig and I need to sit down and talk probably in the next couple of weeks. You got to let the dust settle a little bit. I think emotions are a great thing, and they can also be a detriment. I'm going to let the dust settle. I want to hear from the management staff that I work with. I want him to get a good indication from his coaches. But I think for any organization to have success, you have to evolve. I think I have to evolve as a manager. I think he has to evolve as a coach. And we talked about our players have to evolve in the areas where the goals are scored from. So there's growth patterns for everyone that are necessary. And but they're I have to be in connection with Craig. There's no sense going out getting a player that I vision one thing and then it's a square peg into a round hole. So he and I got to continue to work on that.
How much do you think player development, and obviously it was not just you, it was all of the hockey world, was hurt by just the whole setup of, college's seasons interrupted, Utica had its season interrupted, you and your staff were scrambling, looking to find places maybe for people to play?
Yeah, I would say that we'll probably look back on this and say the Europeans had an advanced development year than the North Americans. It seemed like there was more leagues going on over there. There was more players playing. It was difficult for the North American players. Even the American Hockey League, the way it was set up with no playoffs and you played a small number of teams. The emotion of hockey is about the postseason. It's about preparing yourself to be on the perfect level to hit that and then run for a championship. So it's something that we all dealt with, though it's no different. But yeah, there's going to be a stagnation and growth for some players for sure.
I was thinking for a guy like Vagansky who played, 3 or 5 games this year, for someone him and taxi squad who saw completely a lost year almost.
Yeah, I talked to the taxi squad guys, when we had our team meeting yesterday, and I think that those were the players that sacrificed the most. Certainly in our organization, I don't want to speak for others, but I was so impressed with our taxi squad. They came to work every day. They did the skill development that JJ had them do. They were prepared when necessary. Some of them drove back and forth from St. Louis to Utica on multiple occasions just to play, so they didn't have to quarantine. And they did it with a smile on, and I owe them a debt of gratitude, and I said that to them in front of the team yesterday, that they were true pros in a time where it could have been easy not to be that.
What was there a general theme you can share with us of what you told the team in your remarks?
Yeah, it was basically that we have to get back to being a pack. We have to get back to the team. The team we have to be the hardest, closest, fiercest team, because our competition might have acquired better players through free agency or through the draft or whatever. So our strength has always been the team, and it's going to continue to be the team. But the excitement is I know the character of the guys that are going to be able to pull that in. So that was sort of the message, is that I was proud of the group. The way that they went into that Colorado-Minnesota series, had put ourselves not in a good spot. They won those games. We looked like we were getting healthy. We looked like we were coming on. We looked like we were going to be a tough out, and then we lost a couple more players. But I was disappointed that we got ourselves in that spot too. So it was I just think our team has its greatest success when they're committed to the guy beside them. And I'm not saying that they weren't, but being 98% or 96% committed is not being 100, and for us to have success, we have to be 100.
Doug, do you
The
expect your-
inability to have, for players to go out to dinner on the road or even at home because of COVID, that had to impede that team process, didn't it?
Well, I think it did, but again, it's not like we were the only organization that were dealing with these issues. But I think we talked about Kruger and not being able to get his family acclimated into our organization. Clifford's not having their family acclimated into the organization. And there's little things that this group has done, and it really, quite honestly, it starts with the alumni, and it's been the staple of the St. Louis Blues Hockey Club and the community, is that they welcome these people in with open arms and make them feel great about their choice to come to St. Louis. And I think our community can't wait to do that again, not only for us, but for the Cardinals. Like, the St. Louis is about community. This team is about community, and it's about having pride in St. Louis, and it's very difficult to do that when you can't connect with your friends and your fans, and that's why I say I'm really hoping that we can get back to it when they come back for training camp, that they're able to have barbecues, and we're able to take them out golfing, and we're able to do lots of things that we couldn't do to expedite why we believe and trust and love each other so much, and that's how we're going to have success.
Doug, do you expect your coaching staff to remain intact moving forward, or is there anything there that possibly needs to be addressed?
No, Craig and I are going to talk about that. Again, I think we all need to improve, and I don't sense that Craig has an issue with any of his staff. Again, I haven't sat and talked to him about that yet. Again, there's really no rush. I think we have young coaches that are getting better, getting stronger, but we do have to get our special teams better. Our 5-on-5 has to be better, and I have to sit with Craig and find out how we continue to develop our younger players so they can have a great impact on our team quickly, and how we fix some of the areas in which weren't up to par this year.
Army, if I could sneak one more in, can you hear
Sure
me?
can. Yep, I got you better there. Thanks, JR.
Hey, I don't know if you heard David Perron yesterday, but he said if he's gonna sign a deal that's gonna take him to the end of his career, it's gonna have to be an 8-year deal. My question is, could you see him being a part of the thing moving forward still? And what are your thoughts on an 8-year deal?
As long as I get one with him. No. David is, he defies the actuary tables, and we're lucky to have him. At his age, he's supposed to be going the other direction. I think Marty St. Louis might be the only player in 20 plus years that are having their best years into their 30s, and so I'm not surprised though. He's passionate about the game. He works at the game. He's evolved with the game. His puck protection skills are top level. His ability to create offense for himself is at top level. He goes to the harder areas. He's here next year, and as long as he wants to play, I don't know why the St. Louis Blues wouldn't want him. 8 years might be a tad long, though.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Again, I want to thank everyone for. I know it's been a strange season, not being able to see you guys and connect either on planes or at hotels, but I really appreciate your support, and to our fans, sorry it didn't end the way we wanted, but we're really looking forward to putting a good work in this summer and having the building filled up next October with everybody cheering us on. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.